Welcome to episode 1 of No Expectations Video Store. My name is James. The idea of this channel is to bring the nostalgia and the variety and the love of a video rental store and bring that energy to a YouTube channel. So as kids, we used to go to a Blockbuster and Hollywood Video with no expectations, simply knowing we have a good time with whatever we got from the store. Sometimes we would just go simply based off the cover or the actor or even recommendations from the staff. So the same concept applies to our channel, with a wide variety of titles being reviewed that some people may never find otherwise. So for episode 1, we are reviewing the 1987 film directed by John Hughes, Some Kind of Wonderful, starring Eric Stoltz and Leah Thompson. The reason why we chose this film, because both of us actually never seen it, and Leah Thompson and Eric Stoltz were supposed to be in Back to the Future together. Eric Stoltz was actually the original Marty McFly. So they actually shot some scenes together, but just for some reason, the movie never happened with them, too. So Michael J. Fox took over with, honestly, he did great, so there's that. So from what I can tell from this movie, I'm not too certain what it's about. Maybe there's a love triangle between these three characters, or maybe Eric Stoltz is just trying to go back in time to screw his mom. Who's to say? We'll find out.
Welcome to the new channel, No Expectations Video Store. The point of this channel is to take films that we have never seen, know absolutely nothing about, and go into them with no expectations, and then review them afterwards. Think of the magic of an old school video store, going in, picking out a title that you know nothing about just based on the cover art, and then going in and being in for a big surprise. That's kind of the vibe we're going for right now with this. The first video on our list is Some Kind of Wonderful, 1987, directed by Howard Deutsch, and written by John Hughes. It's also starring Eric Stoltz, Mary Stuart Masterson, and Leah Thompson. So my level of knowledge about this film is 1 out of 10. I know absolutely nothing aside from the cast and the writer. So I wrote a guess synopsis. This is going to be something we're going to be doing where we try to figure out what it's about just based on the cover. So here's my guess synopsis. I said, a young man, Eric Stoltz, becomes entangled in a love triangle with his girlfriend and a new girl in town he met through his circle of friends. The two women eventually become aware of each other and party with drugs and low-hibitions in the 1980s. Did we mention Eric Stoltz is psychic? Okay, so that's my guess synopsis. I could be totally off, but let's watch the movie and find out.
Hey, just finished watching the 1987 film, Some Kind of Wonderful. What can I say? It wasn't bad. A typical 80s film. Turns out it wasn't directed by John Hughes, but it was written by him. Hey, that's what happens when you know little information about it. Just go off of other people's information. What can I say about this film? Liked it. Wasn't half bad. Loved the intro, the montages back and forth between the characters. I enjoyed the chemistry between Keith, who played by Eric Stoltz, and Watts. I can't remember the actress's name, but Keith and Watts, their chemistry was really tight. And then you throw in Leah Thompson, Amanda Jones' character in there. She was alright. She was just more of someone pretty to look at. I enjoyed her throughout the film, but I was more interested between these two characters. They had more of a bonding between each other. They were childhood friends. You wanted them more to fall in love. Um, Typical kind of love story in the 80s. You can definitely see the John Hughes vibes in there. Even though he didn't direct it, his written, like, his stories throughout there. You can see his writing style. That's the word I was looking for. His writing style. Um, yeah, not a terrible film. I enjoyed it very much. I probably would watch it again, maybe in a few years. Um, Without spoiling too much, let's just say, look up the Amanda Jones theme song. Let's just say that. Ben, what do you have to say?
All right, so I just finished watching Some Kind of Wonderful, and I'm going to say my rating for it, I'm going to be generous and say a 4 out of 5. My heart kind of tells me 3.5 out of 5, but I love the 80s so much, man, and I love John Hughes. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Let's read the real synopsis and compare it to my guest synopsis. So the actual synopsis for the film is Keith Nelson, Eric Stoltz, an artsy high school outcast, tries to land a date with popular girl Amanda Jones, Leah Thompson, with some help from his tomboy best friend, Watts, Mary Stuart Masterson. Cutie. However, his advances draw the ire of Amanda's snobby ex-boyfriend, Hardy, Craig Sheffer, who makes plans to get even. Tough guy. Matters are further complicated when Watts realizes she likes Keith as more than just a friend and tries to convince him to stop pursuing Amanda. Release date February 27th, 1987. Director Howard Deutsch. Screenplay John Hughes. Box office $18.5 million US dollars. Also produced by John Hughes. Okay, let's dive into the review. First off, I gotta get my review glasses. Alright, now I have my handy dandy review glasses on. I'm actually wearing my contacts right now, so I actually can't see. So we'll save the review glasses for later, but that was just for cinematic effect. Anywho, so when I watched the movie, I actually took notes in the dark on things that I really liked. So let's take a look at the notes and see what we liked. First of all, incredible style for 1987. Just, I don't know, man, the clothing they were wearing, and I'm actually referring to the style of the clothing they were wearing. Looks like they could wear it today and totally pull it off. Eric Stoltz looked really cool, and all the girls in the movies, like, really stylish. Check it out, you'll see what I mean. John Hughes definitely knows how to write for teenagers, especially in that time. He just knew what was going on in people's heads, you know, and even now, I mean, it's like I wasn't around at that time, but when you watch it, it seems like he really knew what young people were thinking. And for a guy in his late 30s, early 40s to write, you know, about 17, 18-year-old minds, really goes to show he was the perfect person to kind of be a voice for those people, you know, for young people. I really like this quote from the movie from the Watts character. It says, "Don't go mistaking paradise for a pair of long legs." I like that. I think we could all learn from that. There's a lot of hotties out there that, you know, you think are perfect and you put them on a pedestal, but they're really a nightmare. Things I hated about the movie. Not much. I liked it overall as a film. The only thing I hated, though, was the cliche little sisters. There's always those cliche little sisters, and it was the girl, I think, it was DJ Tanner when she was real little. What's her name? Candace Cameron? I don't know. Anyway, she plays the little sister, and they always make the little sister like a genius. She's always like, "I'm really into science, and you don't know anything." And I'm like, come on, that's silly. Like, that's stupid. And who knows, maybe that's where it started, and we're ripping on them for the wrong reasons, but I thought the sisters were just obnoxious in the film.
So there's this other thing that was really awkward throughout in the movie. Actually, not throughout, but there's this one scene in the movie where, like, one of the students' dads bangs on, like, the classroom window, and she just fucking screams. Like, I don't even know where it came from. It was just, she just screams, and they just awkwardly look at each other through the classroom window, and then he just walks away, and then it goes back to normal. Like, no one says anything. No one says anything about that fucking scream. They just move on with their days. Another thing that was very freaking awkward was the ending, like, near the end, where Amanda slaps her ex-boyfriend, and everyone just looks at each other like, was that in the script? It was just so weird. It bugged me a little bit, but I thought it was funny and cheesy. But I don't know why they kept it in the movie. Like, they could have just oh shit, no, they had their mouths both open looking at each other like, oh, did she really do that? Yeah, she did. Um, yeah. So 2 points of the film that I thought was a little bit weird. But the rest of the movie, I liked it. I'll watch it again. Enjoy myself.
Did you like it, Ben? Did you like the film?
I loved Eric Stoltz's character deliberately trying to get detention to get in with the hot girl, Leah Thompson. I thought that was great. It's like he sees that she's in trouble and she's going to have detention for the rest of the week. So he like goes and like pulls the fire alarm and starts doing all this stuff that's totally out of character, and I loved that. I thought that was really clever. Some things that I didn't like, I kind of felt in some scenes, like the scenes with the Little Sisters, that there was a cheesiness that was kind of hard to get past. I think had John Hughes been the director and not just the writer, I think we would have gotten past that and it would have been smoother. But it was easy to overlook, but it was still there. There was still an evident cheesiness that was a little hard to get past, especially in the beginning of the film. All right, if you guys are fans of Ferris Bueller and John Hughes, the maitre d' from the Abe Froman restaurant, from the Snooty restaurant, he actually makes a small cameo in this movie as well, which is kind of cool. Keep an eye out for him. I really enjoyed the art museum scene in this film. I don't want to give away too much. I don't want to do any spoilers, but there's a beautiful art museum sequence, and I think that's just so John Hughes. I think he really loves art museums. I mean, if you go and look at the iconic scene of Ferris Bueller's Day Off where they're walking around the art museum in Chicago, this is kind of one of those scenes where you're kind of like, oh, this is almost a side character, you know? The setting is almost a character. So I thought that was pretty cool. So another thing I really want to talk about in this movie is the Back to the Future connection. So, as a lot of you guys know, originally Eric Stoltz was cast to be Marty McFly in Back to the Future, in the first one. They came really close to finishing the movie. I think they shot something like about 75% of the film with Stoltz, and then he was fired and replaced by Michael J. Fox. Interesting thing about that is we see Eric Stoltz and Leah Thompson in this film, Some Kind of Wonderful, and Leah Thompson obviously played Lorraine in Back to the Future. So this is the closest we get to see to those two characters, or those two actors, being on screen together in that era. Because this film would have been shot in 86 and then released in 87. So Back to the Future 1 would have been in 84, released in 85. So this is the closest we get to see to that. And the chemistry, you know, it's obviously a different relationship than what would have been in Back to the Future. But I could definitely see how if we didn't know Michael J. Fox, how Eric Stoltz could have worked as Marty. But he just wouldn't have been as funny. I feel like as an actor, he took himself a little too seriously, maybe. He's a very good actor, don't get me wrong, Eric Stoltz, but I think Marty just had that comedic timing. I feel like Michael J. Fox had those comedic sensibilities that Stoltz did not have. But it's still interesting to see these two together and kind of get a glimpse of what could have been, you know, in terms of that alternate Back to the Future.
Stoltz, I could see why he wasn't cast as Marty McFly. I could see why he was probably chosen at first, but then afterwards, watching this film a little bit more, I can totally see why he didn't become Marty. I would say just watch the film and you'll understand too.
So Eric Stoltz, Mary Stuart Masterson, and Leah Thompson, their characters all are in a love triangle. This was pretty interesting because it was almost true to life. And like, you know, we want the people that don't want us sometimes, especially when you're younger. And they did a pretty darn good job with that. Like I said, there were some cheesy elements and some of the dialogue was a little stilted, but they still did a pretty good job of showcasing these relationships and kind of the complexities that come along with friendship and someone who's in love with another friend and someone who's not interested in you and focused on the other person. They did a really good job with that, and John Hughes is an expert at interpersonal relationships, especially for teenagers. So one thing that I really did like in this film was Eric Stoltz's character being the underdog. And I feel like nowadays, if he was like in high school, he'd be a pretty cool kid, you know? I mean, he was probably like 28 when he shot the movie. But he looked like a cool guy, you know? And he was an artist, and you didn't really believe he was a nerd or a weirdo or anything. It would have been more believable if it was like Anthony Michael Hall or somebody being that kind of nerdy character. But they did a good job with that, and I like whenever it's the underdog succeeding and getting the girl. They did a really good job. So I don't want to give away too much about this film in case you guys want to see it yourselves, but I will say, had John Hughes directed it and not just written it, it would have been a whole lot better. That being said, it's still a solid film, still a solid 80s movie with good romance, good drama, a few comedic elements that are evident in all of Hugh's scripts, but it's worth a watch for sure. 4 out of 5 for me. It's no Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It's no Weird Science. You know, it's more in the realm of, I would say, the same universe of kind of like The Breakfast Club, but with a little less humor. But it's totally worth a watch, especially if you love 80s movies and if you're a fan of John Hughes. So all in all, not an incredible movie, but a decent movie, especially if you're a fan of John Hughes, a fan of any of the actors in the film, or if you just like the 1980s. It's not the caliber of Ferris Bueller's Day Off or even Breakfast Club, but it's definitely worth checking out. 4 out of 5 for me. Anyway, so that's my review of Some Kind of Wonderful. Check back with us next week. We will have a brand new video for you and a brand new movie to review. So be kind, rewind, and subscribe. That's the catchphrase.